Hey everyone, I'm Kaya with exercisesforinjuries.com. Welcome to today's video where I am going to show you how to test if you have tight hip flexors. So we're going to go through just a couple movements you can do at home and some things to look out for so you can see if you have tight hip flexors, and then if you do, what you can do about that. So we'll go ahead and come down to the ground here for our hip flexor assessment. So we're going to lie down on our backs with the legs outstretched. Now, if you're doing this at home, you're going to hang out here, just relaxed, whole body relaxed here with the legs outstretched for 60 to 90 seconds. And then after that 60 to 90 seconds, you're going to ask yourself 3 questions. First question is, do you feel any tightness in your quads, so in the thighs, in your hip, or in your back? Number 2, is there any pulling sensation on your hip or your low back? And number 3, is this curve in your low back, is it really pronounced? So you can check by placing the hand underneath the low back. And if you can easily slide your entire hand under there, that is probably a yes. That curve is probably pretty big. All right, so once you've done that, you've answered those questions, and then you're going to bend your knees and place your feet on the floor. Hanging out here again for 60 to 90 seconds, and then you're going to ask yourself those questions again, but we want to see if anything has changed. So that tightness, if you had that in your quads, hip, or back when the legs were outstretched, asking yourself, has that tightness gone away or at least decreased? Number 2, has that pulling in the hip or low back, has that gone away? And number 3, that curve in the low back, you might be able to see with me, is pretty much gone now. My back's almost flat on the floor. So the answers to the questions in this position are different, and those things have gotten less tight. There's less of a curve in the back. There's less pulling. That probably means you have tight hip flexors, because in this position, we're taking that pressure off the hip flexors by putting them into their shortened position. And so if there are those sensations of pulling and tightness and that curve in the low back when the legs are outstretched, that probably means the hip flexors are tight, and that's why you're feeling that tightness and pulling when the hip flexors have been lengthened out. So that's just a quick assessment you can do at home to see if you have tight hip flexors. So why are tight hip flexors such an important thing to be aware of and to find out if you have tight hip flexors? Well, when your hip flexors are tight, these muscles on the front of the hips here, that leads to misalignment in the pelvis. So when the hip flexors are tight, often it leads to that more of a pronounced curve in the lumbar spine. So this can lead to back pain, especially in the low back. There's a lot more pressure pressing down on the lower back when the hip flexors are tight. And because of this misalignment, it can lead to knee pain, of course, hip pain, even ankle pain, poor posture, because now we've curved our back. Normally, we compensate by now over curving in the upper back and shoulders, and we get that, what we call text neck, where it's that curve in the neck and upper back, like when people have when they're texting, which leads to its own host of problems. And along with those kind of postural things, you're also going to see a decrease in your performance. So if you're an athlete or even just recreationally going to the gym or things like that, a decreased performance, increased risk of injury, because we have all these misalignments and we have really tight muscles in certain areas, as well as slower recovery times. So really important that we address your tight hip flexors. So if you decide that you do have tight hip flexors and you'd like to do something about it, feel free to take a look at the Unlock Your Hip Flexors program on exercisesforinjuries.com by injury specialist Rick Caselge. So thousands of people have gotten this program and used it to decrease or eliminate the tightness in their hips and all of the things that come along with that. So feel free, check out the link below. It'll take you to the product page where you can learn more about the program. So the program is comprehensive, tons of stretches that target all kind of every angle that you can of the hip flexor muscles. It's quick, safe, it's accessible, it's about 10 minutes a day. There's modifications for every exercise to make them easier or harder, so you can find a level that works for you. And you can do that routine every day to unlock your tight hip flexors. So thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in another video. Bye.